To order the President and Board of Trustees. Roll call.
Trustee Wojciechowski.
Here.
Trustee Benucci.
Here.
Trustee Lamb.
Here.
Trustee O'Rourke. Trustee Peck.
Here.
Trustee Rassich. Mayor Collins.
Here. Rise for the pledge, please.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Presidential comments?
Actually, I have just one real quick one. I want to congratulate the Riverfront, the police, Pima, and that on the street department on the way they handled our Plainfield Fest. It was always congested when we closed all those streets, but they did a nice job controlling parking and everything else, and the weather cooperated quite a bit, and it sounds like we had a pretty successful, and I'll let the chief speak to it either now or when his turn comes up.
I can touch base with it now. We did have a very peaceful fest. Friday, the numbers were down from last year, mainly because of the heat, excessive heat, and then we actually had to shut the fest down a half hour early at the end of the night, the beer tent, because we had a strong storm form actually right outside the village, and then impacted the fest. So we were able to evacuate everybody out of the tent in about 5 minutes, and after that, it was their decision if they want to stay out in the rain, but at least we had them out of the open area. Saturday started out hot as well, but once the temperatures died down, the fest really picked up as far as attendance. We really didn't have any problems there. It was a large crowd, and Sunday was a very large crowd. So I think overall, obviously they're still putting their numbers together. Overall, the attendance will be down a little bit, and the profits will probably be down a little bit, but based on preliminary information, it's not going to be that much of an impact, even based on the excessive temperatures we had. But the very good crowd that was there as far as mingling and getting along, and good interaction with the businesses and the carnival and fest organizers. So very good weekend.
Trustees' comments?
I just want to make a comment again on the same subject, but Rob Epley asked me to specifically convey the thanks of the foundation and our board, and to thank the mayor and the village board and all the departments, the police, the public works, Pima, all the various departments, the fire department as well for the fire district, and all the people that were involved, because it takes so many people to do it, and it was done very well. I know they're going to come down the line and make a better presentation, a better thank you, but he asked me to specifically speak to that, so thank you, everyone.
Are there any other trustee comments?
I have one minor comment to make. As an elected village trustee, oftentimes people will approach you in public and ask you, sometimes it's tongue-in-cheek, but oftentimes it's very forceful. They'll, complain about taxes, which I have no idea why anybody would do that. They'll complain about traffic. They'll complain about the dead trees in the parkway. They'll just make minor complaints. Oftentimes, like I say, it could be tongue-in-cheek, and generally it's not always in that negative of a fashion. But a very frequent comment that I receive, it's about our village board meetings, our committee of the whole meetings, and also our planning and zoning meetings. What we're producing oftentimes, and an individual said this to me the other day, because of the poor quality of the audio and visual production from our village hall, what we're producing is silent movies. People don't know what is being said. And what I'm alluding to is a simple fact. If people can't hear what you're saying, they'll never know what you mean. And that's not the idea of having our meetings transmitted, like I say, in an audio or visual fashion. And another thing is a criticism. We will have a presentation and our microphones perhaps will not be on, or the person who's using the microphone, a guest who's making a presentation, does not have the microphone in the aura of the speaker. So if you're doing this, Wah, 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 wah. You're doing the trombone effect, and it transmits into our public in the same fashion. If you're speaking into a microphone, and I think we have to tell individuals who are making presentations, the microphone has to be within a very limited aura, the current system we have right now. You have to speak aggressively, forcefully. You don't have to be mean, but you should be able to get across your meaning. And like I say, make sure our presentations, our meetings, as I said, are not silent movies, bad silent movies, because people turn it off and they say they don't know what they're doing, and I don't feel that's the case. Anyway, so I spoke with Administrator Murphy, and I asked him this very specific question: are we having any future plans for an improvement of our system? And he said, turn it on.
I had to turn on my microphone and speak loudly into it. The answer is yes. Yes, we do have, it's in this year's budget, and we do have plans to make some improvements. We've had some meetings already with the group to affect those improvements, and you will be seeing a proposal in the near future.
Thank you.
I have a comment that we've had discussed before. We're getting a lot of landscape plans and we review them. Our primary focus is on number of trees and shrubs to meet the village standards. I think we need to, as we've talked about before, figure out exactly where they're going to go, because if you got cars that are coming out by them, you can't see. I made a comment probably a month ago that Myers shrubs were really nice. Well, got a lot of rain, a lot of heat. You can't see the cars again. The shrubs are tall enough that a sedan, the van I've got, you can see over them, but the sedans, just barely are visible. So I'd like to compare that to Menards, which has flowers planted in those same spots. You can see over the flowers. So let's see if we can watch that. But the ones who already have the plants, let's try to make sure they keep them cut down. I mean, things are growing really rapidly this year. So they looked good a month ago, but no longer at Myers.
Oh, exactly. We're actually revising the landscape ordinance to try to address that. But you're right. At the end of the day, the existing landscaping is a maintenance issue, and actually staff's been surveying all the commercial lots along 59 the past week or so to bring it to their attention. So it's at the end of the day, it's a maintenance responsibility.
That'd be
No
great.
such a thing as maintenance free.
Yeah, if we can just remind them, as you said, he's doing that. That's great. I think that'll make a big difference, because we do want people to be able to drive around safe and purchase stuff in town. I don't want them in a hospital anywhere. So,
Are there any other trustee comments? Not, this would be the time for public comments. If there are no public comments, then we will proceed with the business meeting. We're seeking a motion to approve the agenda.
so moved.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda. Trustee Wajowski? Yes. Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee Peck? Yes. Trustee Rassich? Yes. Thank you. That motion carries. We're seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda to include minutes of the board meeting and executive session held on July 6th. Bills paid and bills payable reports for July 20th. Cash and investments, revenue and expenditure reports for June. Intergovernmental agreement with the Plainfield Park District regarding mutual assistance. Ordinance number 3220, amending the liquor license classifications as identified in the staff report. Approval of a contract with Bonding Point LLC for the In Your Community Incentive and Rewards Program, and adopt the Village of Plainfield American with Disabilities Act Transition Plan 2015. Motion's been made and seconded to adopt items A through G under the consent agenda. Trustee Wajowski?
Yes.
Trustee Benucci?
Yes.
Trustee Lamb?
Yes.
Trustee Peck?
Yes.
Trustee Rassich? Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Presence Healing Art Pavilion sign variance. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt the findings of fact of the Zoning Board of Appeals as the findings of fact of the Board of Trustees And furthermore, to direct the village attorney to prepare an ordinance granting approval of a variance to permit a monument sign with less than 800 linear feet of separation for the property located at 16615 South Route 59.
So move.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
I have a question, Michael. If the report says the signs will be lighted and they will be turned off, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night or whatever. The picture we have doesn't look like it's lit. Looks like it's just stuck onto a brick wall, or limestone wall, brick, I think it is. How's it going to be lit? Backlit?
I believe it's going to be backlit. That's my understanding with regards to the actual lettering itself. As you know, there were several residents who had some concerns and questions and actually objected to the sign itself, but the applicant did represent during the plan commission that there would be hours, that they would try to be sensitive to the adjacent residents. And it's my understanding, I believe it's going to be backlit, if that's correct. The applicant's actually here. Yes.
You can use that one right there. Just identify yourself.
Fantastic. My name is Rob Oldenburg with Ergens. We're the owner of the facility. Right now, we're actually looking at lighting options. It's not confirmed whether it's going to be an internally lit, individually lit letter, or if it's going to be backlit. We're not quite that far along in the details yet. And that would be something that we'd factor into the final submittal for the sign permit should the request be approved. And we will be sensitive to the neighbors to the west of us and make sure that the sign is not illuminated outside of clinic hours.
East of you?
Yes,
East,
thank you,
okay.
East. I'm turning
Yeah,
around.
the reason I bring up the backlit part is that if you don't light the sign, the way it looks now, you can hardly read it. That's just a picture we have. So I assume somebody's paying attention to that kind of details so that they really will direct people in a way that's obvious.
Correct, yes.
'Cause right now the sign is dark and the background is even darker.
And I acknowledge the contrast did not show up very well in the
Okay.
rendering, and that will be thought through to give it that aesthetic.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm fine with that. So.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to direct the village attorney to prepare an ordinance granting approval of to grant approval of a variance to permit a monument sign with less than 800 linear feet of separation for the property located at 16615 South Route 59. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee Peck. Trustee Rassich. Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 12465 Falcon Drive fence variance. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt the findings of fact of the Zoning Board of Appeals as the findings of fact of the Board of Trustees, and furthermore, to direct the village attorney to prepare an ordinance granting approval of a variance to permit placement of a fence in the corner side yard for the property located at 12465 South Falcon Drive.
I move we direct the village attorney to prepare an ordinance granting approval of a variance to permit placement of a fence within the corner side yard for the property located at 12465 South Falkland Drive.
Second.
That motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions?
Staff. In the past, I believe we've approved one, possibly two of these in extreme circumstances. And from what I gather from the staff report, this has to do essentially with the location of the parcel
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Historically.
without any particular circumstance above and beyond.
Exactly right. Historically, staff's not supported these, nor has the Planning Commission, or I'm sorry, ZBA. But because of the circumstances of Bob White actually terminates into a berm, which buffers the residences from Walmart. We don't believe there'll be any negative impact. Obviously, there'll be no sightline issues. There'll be no negative impacts on adjacent properties because of the very nature of Bob White Lane, because it does terminate into basically a berm.
Yeah, I'm just glad we show flexibility because these are things which make sense. We're not so rigid with our ordinances that we can't use logic when it pays. And here's a case where it borders 127th Street and next to a berm. Yeah. Like, who cares? Makes good sense.
Are there any other comments or questions?
There's one comment. This is another illustration of the Zoning Board of Appeals does their work and does the groundwork for what we have to vote on. And there's not an awful lot of discussion because they did the preliminary discussion, and that's it's a valuable resource that we have as trustees in our decision-making process. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to direct the village attorney to prepare an ordinance granting approval of a variance to permit placement of a fence in the corner side yard for the property located at 12465 South Falcon Drive. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Panucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Trustee Rassi.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Founders Building Child Care Facility. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a special use ordinance for a child care facility to be located at the Founders Building on Dayfield Drive.
Motion and a second.
I'll
Answer the
make a
question.
motion. I move that the village board approve the attached special use ordinance with the following stipulations. Compliance with requirements of village engineer, compliance with the requirement of the Plainfield Fire Protection District.
Second.
That motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other comments or questions?
I have one question on the picture. The first picture is up there. You got a couple trees at the end. I assume that's where the playground's going to be and the fence is going to be?
That's correct.
The pictures they also have put in our package show that a lot of equipment going to that area. Is it big enough to?
Yes, the applicant, as you see this before you on your screen, is the actual proposed play area. It is, I believe, big enough for a substantial, significant play area. I think the biggest discussion point at the Plan Commission was obviously incorporating a fence design, which would be 100% secured around the perimeter of the play area because of the proximity to Route 59. So the applicant has come back with a revised plan to make sure the area is secure. The actual iron fence will be 8 feet high, which should address any security issues with children, again, based on the fact of its proximity to Route 59. But the actual portrayal of the actual play area, I believe that is an actual accurate portrayal of what's being proposed. As you can see, it's a fairly extensive play area. I think the applicant has creatively, is kind of creatively reusing that drive-through, which in other words could be a dead space. But in some ways, it's creatively reusing that area for a play area, which is partially actually covered.
Yeah, I'd like to drop 10 years and go back and be a kid. That looks like a great place to play. Of course, I can somebody catch that. So anyway,
It was 10 squared. A point of clarification with staff. We've gone over this being adjacent to Route 59. Can you articulate where on this screenshot here where Route 59 would be?
Route 59 is this area right along here. So basically, again, this will be Route 59. This will be looking west towards the actual parking lot. The actual main parking lot is to the west of the building. So this is the main access point off Dayfield. Right here will be Route 59. Again, this is Route 59 proximity. So the applicant has incorporated basically what we call concrete piers with a face brick along with a 8-foot iron fence. In addition to extensive landscaping along the perimeter, there's approximately 40 feet, just for context, between this lane and again, this is a right turn lane. The through lane is probably closer to 60 feet from the actual fence. But again, there was extensive, healthy discussion at the Planning Commission. Staff does believe that this really does mitigate and addresses some of the safety issues pertaining to this outdoor play area. 45 miles an hour. Again, 45. So that through lane again would be over here, approximately 60 feet. There is again, as I stated, a dedicated right turn lane, deacceleration lane right here.
Has the applicant provided any particular tolerances that the pillars on that side will be able to, as far as
the actual the applicant staff's requested the pillars actually be constructed of concrete. So when you think of the really concrete bollards, which would be 8 feet high, and then basically around the concrete column itself, or the inner core, would be the face brick, to try to address the worst case scenario.
I'm worried about is it's in proximity. I realize there's a turn lane, a deceleration lane there, but then again, you still have cars that are going 45 miles per hour plus, not too far, and it's in very close proximity. So I guess I have reservations about this location altogether, based on the proximity to Route 59.
Is there any speed impact rating on the fence materials to be used? Just say a car were to come by at 45 miles an hour and hit that concrete post. Would it throw concrete into the play yard, or would it stay self-contained and just buckle?
Well, the applicant their engineer has not identified that, but we would obviously continue to work with the applicant to refine the plan to make sure that it would not buckle, that there would be no impact basically on the play area. I mean, what these columns are really meant to be, again, are just concrete bollards. They're decorative because there's face brick. Obviously, there's a cosmetic aspect, but the number one issue is the safety issue, public safety issue. So they're designed to basically, worst case scenario, stop any vehicle.
Right, that's what I was asking. Do you know the speed that it would stop it at, or what the maximum speed that
Again,
would
the
hold?
applicant has not actually identified that yet. We would, if there is support for this actual use, we would have an opportunity to continue to work with the applicant on that, to make sure that the worst case scenario would stop a vehicle, at a speed 45. That's something we have to discuss. What is a reasonable speed?
Semi trucks, dump trucks, it's not just small passenger vehicles going past, correct?
That's correct. It's all types of traffic.
I realize everyone is relatively concerned with safety. The concern is obvious. Because it's a private facility, does it have to be any different? Look at all the grade schools we have in the area. Are we fencing off every grade school, the total perimeter of every school, every place there's a child? We'd have to fence off the entire village of Plainfield. I think they've made reasonable boundaries right here. What would you expect? Next thing we'll ask for is to electrify it so no one tries to climb over it or something. I think it's reasonable what they have done. You can only go in that respect. Otherwise, we'd have to turn it down and say, no, they can't have it because a semi might go through it. A semi might go through Central Junior High School also, or Indian Trail. There's 25,000 vehicles go up 126 every morning. We have to block off Indian Trail Junior High, et cetera, et cetera. I don't mean to exaggerate it, but yet I think our concern is, I don't have a concern with the fencing. If someone does, then that is their situation. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 3221, a special use ordinance for a child care facility to be located at the Founders Building on Dayfield Drive, subject to the stipulations listed in the staff report. Trustee Wojciechowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee Peck. Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Martin Development Kidney Dialysis Center. We're seeking board consideration of a motion to approve a site plan for an 8,500 square foot kidney dialysis center as part of the Martin office development located on Riverwalk Court.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this item?
Be a welcome addition that fills in a hole between the old police station and the building to the south, and could be very nice, and I think it's probably a needed service we need in town. Any idea when phase 2 would go? Because it's supposed to be 2 buildings eventually. They have any thought about?
Correct. The applicant has not identified the timing of the building, the second building, which would be approximately 8,000 square feet. They don't have a user. As soon as they have a user for that building, they plan to proceed with the development of that building. But as we speak, they've not identified a potential user. But they do have a fairly quick schedule for this actual kidney dialysis center.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not, the motion was made and seconded to approve a site plan for the Kidney Dialysis Center to be located as part of the Martin Office Development on Riverwalk Court. Trustee Wajowski,
Yes.
Trustee Benucci,
Yes.
Trustee Lamb,
Yes.
Trustee Peck,
Yes.
Trustee Rassett.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Administrators report,
None tonight.
Management Services report,
No report.
Engineers report,
No report.
Planning Department report.
Briefly, you have in your packet a proposed report from the Planning Commission and ZBA with regards to the cases which were heard in 2014 and 2015. As you know, we bring this summary to the village board for approval each year.
Following on Trustee Ratchick's comments, this group does a lot of work for us. And it makes our job a whole lot simpler because they are there, they go into detail, and as you can see from 4 pages worth of cases I've heard, they do a lot of things. So thank you, thank them very much whenever you get a chance.
Are there any other comments or questions?
I just have one minor comment, perhaps, Mayor Collins. You know, oftentimes, we have perhaps an annual meeting with the Planning and Zoning Board and the Village Board, maybe at a committee of the whole sometime. We could get together and have our general, just our discussion, see if we're in connect. And I think that would be a positive thing, because oftentimes individuals, we communicate, but it's good to communicate as a group, and I think it would be great for the public to see it also. Thank you.
Building on it a little bit, we have 2 new board members who the Plan Commission has not necessarily heard. Well, one was on the Plan Commission, but on the other hand, you know, they were, as board members, need to put your perspective in. I think it might be productive to do that. Last time we had a session, I thought it was very effective. They started to get a better understanding of what we're looking for, and we get a better feeling for what they do. So I think Trustee Ratchick's got a good idea. Sometime, maybe the fall, perhaps.
I have good ideas sometimes.
Every once in a while. It's usually not your last one, though.
Are there any other comments or questions? Building Department report.
No other report than what was submitted in the packet.
We're right on track, same number as last year, for building permits. You got any gut feel for whether we're going to do better in the second half or not?
If I knew that, I'd be buying lottery tickets.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Public Works report.
Yes, the first item that we have under consideration is a resolution regarding MFT. MFT is motor fuel tax money is held through the state or collected by the state for communities to be utilized for roadway improvements. It is required by law that the village board adopt a resolution related to MFT anytime an expenditure is anticipated. We did open bids for the MFT resurfacing work, and this resolution is consistent with those bids, which is the next item after that. So I'll be happy to answer any questions about the resolution, but this is common procedure for the board.
We'd be seeking a motion to adopt Resolution 1714, a resolution for improvement by municipality under the Illinois Highway Code for the 2015 MFT Street Improvement Program.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Trustee Rassett.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
And actually, the next item that I have is related to that too as well. We were pleased that we opened sealed bids on July the 8th for the resurfacing work, which actually covers a number of different streets within the community. This is in your packet. It was also printed in the newsletter that was provided to all our residents this spring as to the roadways that we resurfacing. We did receive 5 bids. We are well under budget for this project too as well, and the bids were very comparable to the prices that were bid last year. With that, deconstruction was the low bidder at $769,107.77. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions related to that, but staff recommends approval.
I have two quick questions. One, the engineer, or who does our engineering bid? Baxter and Woodman, or do we, as Scott, do that, or Randy?
Yeah, it's a team effort between Baxter and Woodman and between Mr. Threewitt. He has helped out immensely, and if we can balance that in-house work, it does save the village a little money too as well. So it's a combination.
Yeah, this particular one came in well under what we estimated, and looking at it, it looked like the asphalt estimates were a bit different. Because the oil prices are down, the asphalt prices are more reasonable than we might have guessed at this point.
Does help. We also look at competitive bids for neighboring communities and things of that nature to come up with that estimate. But there is a direct relationship based on the cost of oil, has a relationship on the cost of asphalt, that's for sure. But luckily, it's awfully close to the prices that we received last year, which were very good prices.
MFT funds are in excess of the 769. What happens to that money?
The additional money is still allotted to the village, and there are other things that MFT money can be utilized for as well, as long as they directly relate to roadway improvements or providing things related to that. So, for instance, in years past, we've paid for electrical costs for streetlights, but it's only for streetlights, not for buildings or other things like that. That's an acceptable cost. Shoulder stone for gravel along roadways. Well, most of our roadway profiles don't have shoulder stones, so it's one of those things that we've utilized in the past, but not so much in the future. But you don't lose the money if you don't expend it.
We keep it, we just spend it sooner or later.
That's correct. You can spend it in the following year, or you can spend it in this budget cycle.
The other question is, the next one we get to is another MFT fund. And how do you break it down to what's MFT and what's non-MFT as far as road work? Is there any formula for that? Is it just arbitrary to make sure the numbers turn out something?
It's more driven towards the budget, actually, and that with the MFT portion, there's more paperwork that has to be done. IDOT actually has to pre-approve our plans before they go out for bid. The contractors have to fill out more paperwork too as well to receive their payment too. And that the reason why it's broken into the two different funds is that to keep our pavement index at the current level that it's at right now, and to resurface the roadway, you need to invest approximately $2 million a year into the roadway resurfacing program. The village only receives about $1 million a year in the MFT, so the additional has to be funded by another source, and that's the capital fund.
Okay, thank you.
Also, Mr. Persons, as you explained to me, we try to use the MFT funds for the primary and the collector streets because they take a lot more traffic, and the type of asphalt that we can get through the MFT program is somewhat controlled by IDOT, and so we don't want to use that on our local road network, which is where the other funds, our local funds, get used on those local road networks. Is that still the case?
That's correct. IDOT is more restrictive on the pavement mix designs that they accept. We have some more leeway on the capital side, although IDOT's getting better.
Okay, that's very good to hear.
Positive news from the state. They're becoming a little more flexible.
Also, in years past, you have saved up MFT funds to go over a series of years so that you can get a larger project put together. As I recall, 127th Street was used in that fashion. So sometimes we do like to save up these funds to be able to be our local match for other projects.
127th Street's a great example because we had to comply with all the federal and state standards. It qualifies for MFT funding if the board selects to utilize some MFT funding in addition to the $2 million grant for that project. So that's correct. Thank you.
We'd be seeking board consideration of a motion to authorize the village president to award the 2015 MFT Street Improvement Program to Deconstruction, the low bidder, in the amount of $769,107.77.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee Peck. Trustee Rassich. Thank you. That motion carries.
A second item that or the third item that I have as a follow-up related to the questions we talked about before. This is a capital improvement program, very similar resurfacing program. We did receive on July 8th 5 sealed bids. We had opened at that time, and we were very happy with the prices. They're very comparable to the MFT bid too as well. I should mention with the previous bid and with this bid as well, there is sidewalk and curb work that will be completed in all the areas where we're going to complete resurfacing to bring the sidewalks up to today's standards as far as compliance with ADA. So we adopted the ADA plan earlier. Every time from now and into the future that we get into a subdivision or area and the standards are not within today's compliance standards, we will bring those up to those standards with the resurfacing work. So it's an added bonus. It's not just roadway resurfacing. It's also sidewalk bike path work too as well. So with that, staff would recommend award to the low bidder, who was Gallagher Asphalt.
We're seeking board consideration of a motion to authorize the village president to award the 2015 non-MFT street improvement program to Gallagher Asphalt Corporation, the low bidder, in the amount of $988,596.42.
So moved.
Second?
The motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Item that I have is concerning Heggs Road. The board is aware we've adopted, or the board's adopted resolutions in the past to designate certain roadways as federal aid routes. And the FAU designation really doesn't change anything as far as the village's restrictions as to what they can do with the roadway. They still have the total authority to make changes in the roadway. What the federal designation allows is grant money to become available for that section of roadway. We've talked to the Wheatland Township about this since a good portion of the roadway, especially to the north, is within Wheatland Township. They already concur with our recommendation and have adopted the necessary ordinance to designate it as an FAU, and also in combination with 127th Street, it does touch Heggs Road. So just to be on the safe side, we felt like it would be a good idea to give this a designation and get an FAU route number for this roadway as well. So it's more of a paperwork issue. There's no cost involved, and it doesn't restrict you from making any type of improvements in the future. It just opens up grant opportunities. So I'll be happy to answer any questions about Heggs Road.
We're seeking board consideration of a motion to adopt resolution number 1715, requesting the designation of Heggs Road from 135th Street to 111th Street as a federal aid urban route.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee Peck. Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. And as per our discussion last Monday night at the Committee of the Whole, we're bringing before the board the contract for the 143rd Street Phase 2 extension work with company CMT. This is the same contract that was presented last week, same numbers. It is a signed contract, and we have, I think CMT did a fine job with the presentation last week, and we heard a lot of positive support from the board for not only the firm, but also for the project and moving this project ahead and dealing with transportation-related issues. So staff is bringing this back before the board. We're recommending approval of the contract. We have two representatives of Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley here this evening, and they're here to answer any questions that the board may have. But if there are no questions, staff would recommend approval.
I move we authorize the village president to approve the Phase 2 engineering services agreement for 143rd Street extension to CMT for an amount not to exceed the total cost of $2,097,405.
Second.
That motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski.
Yes.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee Peck. Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
And the last item that I have is actually related to the wastewater treatment facility. Each year, the board has, in the past, has authorized a contract to have an outside firm haul and incorporate the sludge that's produced from biosolids that's produced from the wastewater plant. It actually goes back to the local farm fields and it's used as fertilizer. The contractor not only takes care of the hauling, they take care of incorporating or disking in the sludge, and they also take care of all the paperwork, the testing that's needed to comply with the EPA. We're very fortunate because the quality is good, which in some communities, if the sludge is contaminated, it has to go to a special landfill, and it's very, very expensive to remove. So this cost, this estimated cost, and it's consistent with what was budgeted at 6,000 cubic yard, is approximately $86,000. The size of facility and the population that we have, this is a very good price. Now, it's only about 2.5% above the price that was provided last year. We did receive sealed bid, I should say. We only received one bid. There are not that many people in the sludge hauling business, but I would encourage anyone who wants to start a business, this would be a very interesting way to go. With that, staff's recommending approval to the lowest bidder.
We're seeking board consideration of a motion to authorize the village president to award a biosolids hauling and disposal contract with Stewart Spreading Incorporated, the contractor with the lowest bid, in the amount of $14.48 per cubic yard.
I authorize the village president to award a biosolids hauling and disposal contract with Stewart Spreading Incorporated, the contractor with the lowest bid, in the amount of $14.48 per cubic yard.
Second.
That motion's been made and seconded. Trustee Wajowski,
Yes.
Trustee Benucci,
Yes.
Trustee Lamb,
Yes.
Trustee Peck, Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
You know, excuse me, before we move on to another item, I could have asked this question before the vote, but it's really not essential. It's not going to change the vote. We have our superintendent, our wastewater superintendent, in attendance tonight, Mr. Kissel. Is there a possibility you could step forward to the podium? I have a question for you. You've got the answer, don't worry. You know, I could remember during I think if I look around the room, there are a few gray heads in this audience. And if you go, not you necessarily, but in the olden days when we went to Chicago up Route 55, we used to pass the McCook wastewater treatment, or the Chicago wastewater treatment site, where they had the big sedimentary ponds. I don't know if any of you remember them. I can remember them very well. They're near Harlem Avenue, Route 55, between Harlem, First Avenue, et cetera, et cetera. I knew a number of people who lived up in that particular area, and during that time, if they ever wanted to make their crops or their tomatoes really grow, what they would do is go get the sedentary material, and they put it on all of their tomatoes in their garden and everything. Tomatoes would be this big, except they glowed from the heavy metal. And my question is this. Could you answer this specific question? What do we do with the heavy metals that used to exist in our society? Do we have them currently at our Plainfield plant? And how do we treat that type of thing?
We minimize the intake. That is something that would happen at a pretreatment facility. So any company that is in a heavy metal producing industry would be required to remove that from their discharge prior to it entering a public system. We are fortunate that we don't have a large industrial base dealing with those types of things. Our pretreatment program has a focus that largely resides up on 143rd Street, which is not heavy metals, but it's a good pretreatment program that keeps those types of things from becoming an issue.
So it's basically pre-treatment. We don't treat in
Correct.
particular. Okay, fine.
We monitor them to make sure they are removing it, but we do not do the removal.
Okay, fine. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Certainly.
Bye.
Grassage has some very good points, and another point of clarification is we have a very advanced wastewater treatment facility. If the new trustees have not had a chance to visit it, I would encourage you to do so. It handles everything from natural to G.I. Joe figures or anything else that make their way over there. And it is one of the few buildings I think that some of us actually have our names on there as trustees, the wastewater treatment plant, and the only one. So thank you, though, for all your support. Yeah.
No free samples, so it's just a visit.
Police Chief's report.
Thank you. The first item I have is I'm seeking board's approval to purchase some components to create a prisoner transport vehicle within the police department. We were fortunate to have a E250 van awarded to us through seizure, and we would like to buy the components to outfit that van into a prisoner transport. It's not a vehicle that we would be utilizing every day. It would be another tool that we could utilize when need be. In the event that we do have a prisoner that's uncooperative, that may be doing damage to our regular squad cars, or in the instance state law was actually changed last year that may warrant us to, for lack of a better term, may force us to go out and pick up our warrants that we generate throughout the entire state, where right now the county sheriff's office does that. The law was changed last year that may force us to go out and do that. There's still some things in progress as far as the final outcome, but in the event that happens, we may have to send officers several hundred miles around the state to pick up warrants if they're picked up at other jurisdictions. So we would like to purchase the equipment to put in a vehicle to make a specific transport vehicle to make it safety for our officers, but also safety for the person that we're transporting, the prisoner or the offender, if you will. What we are looking to purchase is basically the components for inside the vehicle, and then also the installation and the markings or the wrapping on the outside of the vehicle. We did get 3 quotes for the components inside the vehicle. The components inside the vehicle would have all the safety features. They would obviously have safety belts or seat belts for anyone riding in the back. It would also have an internal camera system that the officers up front could monitor the person in the back, and it would also have a recording. So in the event something does happen, they would all be on recording. With the 3 quotes, the price that we got at the best was a CDS Office Technologies at $14,050. That would include the prisoner transport insert, and that would not include the install, which we would do through Nick's Emergency Lighting for $2,200, which that's the company we currently use to do all our vehicle maintenance on our squad cars now. And then the wrap would be $2,970 through the company that does all our wraps. So the outside of the vehicle would look consistent with the rest of our squad cars in our fleet. So it would basically blend in with the rest of the vehicles. So I am seeking board's approval. I will tell you on the agenda, the quote was just for the insert. So with all 3 components, the insert, the the installation of the insert, and the wrap of the vehicle, that I'm asking the board's consideration for a total of $19,820.46 for the purchase of that item and the other 2 items mentioned as well.
And Chief, just for clarification, the funding comes from the asset forfeiture
I'm
funds?
sorry. Thank you very much. Yes, I failed to mention that. Yes, all the monies for this would come out of our asset forfeiture account.
Is it camera that you're going to put in there record? I mean, I'm concerned about the safety, considering the events that happened in Baltimore with a similar prisoner transport van. I don't know if the liability is worth it or not at this point.
Yeah, obviously, I don't know all the situations that happened out there,
Right.
but this insert has the safety seat belts, which we would be putting the person in those seat belts so they couldn't move around. And yes, it does have an internal camera system that would record, yes.
And how many times a year do you propose to use it?
Well, a lot's going to depend on what happens with this, with the law and working with the county. I can't really answer that because, again, I don't know what the outcome's going to be. But over the course of the year, with other subjects that we potentially may have to transport, I would say it probably looking to be maybe a dozen times or so throughout the year.
Okay, and would you amend your policy if the law did change to use the prisoner transport to go pick up the warrants? I mean, I'm just concerned about the van being sitting in the lot, $20,000 is sitting there using it 5-6 times a year.
Yeah, we would actually create a policy specific for the utilization of that van. As I mentioned, the van didn't cost us anything. It came through a seizure fund, so we already have the van in our possession. But we would create specific policy as far as our officers' operation of that van.
Quick question, Chief. Again, it doesn't. I don't think it would be prudent to get a new vehicle for this. Obviously, it's not going to be used very often. Approximately how many miles are on this vehicle? Do we know offhand?
I believe it's less than 15,000.
Less than 15,000.
Yes.
Last you quite a while then. Thank you.
I do have one question for you, Chief. Was the RAP estimate given to any Plainfield companies?
No, we went with the vendor that we've been utilizing for all our squad cars. I don't believe the other vendors can mirror up what we currently have in the rest of our fleet.
I move we authorize the purchase of the Havis prisoner transport insert, related equipment and lighting from CDS Office Supply for the total purchase price of $14,650.46.
I'm sorry, it would actually be the $19,820.46.
The 19,000. I'm sorry, I read the wrong. I pulled up the wrong number. The 19,000 is noted in the staff report.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I have one comment for you, Chief. Will this particular prison transports insert provide extra protection for the person doing the transporting?
Absolutely it would.
Okay,
yes.
fine. So it's a safety device not only for the prisoner, but it's also a safety device for the individual doing the transporting.
Absolutely it is.
Okay, fine, and that's very important. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions?
Yes, on the last page we had an email from Sergeant McQuaid saying that he was starting to look at the project again. When you looked at it previous, why was it shelved?
I actually looked at it a couple years ago when I first became chief. I started exploring the idea of getting a transport vehicle, and to be honest with you, other things got in the way and it kind of was put on the back shelf. And then last summer when the law was changed in the state where we potentially would have to pick up warrants, then I dusted it off and we started re-examining it again.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions? Not. The motion was made and seconded to authorize the purchase of Havis prisoner transport insert, related equipment and lighting as identified in the staff report for the total purchase price of $19,820.46. Trustee Wojciechowski.
No.
Trustee Benucci.
Yes.
Trustee Lamb.
Yes.
Trustee Peck.
Yes.
Trustee Rassich.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. The next item I have is the operations report for the police department for June. The only addition I would like to make on page 2 under the red light camera violations, for the 2015 number, that is incorrect. That should be $21,700 instead of 0. So if anybody has any questions on the operations report, I'd be happy to answer them. And if not, then I'd just like 2 quick reminders to the public. This Wednesday and Thursday, we'll be doing our weather radio discount program again at the police department. That runs from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. for village residents if they want to come by and get a discounted weather radio for severe weather. And we'll also be doing our chat with the chiefs this Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the police department, where police, fire districts, both Plainfield and Oswego, and emergency management will have personnel at the police department for the public to come and have an open forum with questions, answers, and any type of discussion. And if nothing else, that's all I have. Thank you.
Just like to comment again, you weren't here last week. We asked how many the radios were sold, something like 350?
I believe it was about 330 or so, something like that.
But they're very effective. I picked up one, and I say the first time it went off, it was startling. It's since gone off a number of times, and it's nice to get the advance notice and find out what's going on. So I highly recommend people who haven't got them, go get them.
Absolutely. If you purchase those radios through a regular store and everything like that, they typically, depending how many bells and whistles you get, they typically run 25 to 50 to several $100s if you want to get. So $10 is very reasonable price for those radios.
Yep.
Thank you.
Attorney's report,
No report this evening, thank you.
reminders.
July 21st will be our next planning commission meeting. The 24th will be our next movie in Settlers Park if it doesn't rain. The 27th will be our next committee of the whole, and the August 3rd will be our next board meeting.
Taking a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.